I saw a homeless man wearing my missing son's jacket, so I decided to follow him. I wish I hadn't, because what happened next completely changed my life. About a year ago, on a Tuesday morning, my son Karim, who was 16 years old, left the house to go to school, but he never came back. Karim was always the boy who made everyone around him laugh. He had a kind and sensitive heart, and he would never leave the house, even for a small errand, without telling me. That's why his disappearance made no sense at all. That same night, I called the police. The officers tried to calm me down and said that teenagers sometimes do this and usually come back after a couple of days. It was just their way of easing my heart, which was breaking from worry. But Karim never returned. The school cameras showed that he left the school gate, got on a bus, and then disappeared. Weeks passed. We put his pictures everywhere, posted online, did everything we possibly could to find him. The police were still searching, but the days kept passing slowly, and my heart remained tied to every little detail about him, because he was my son, a piece of my soul. Yesterday, I traveled to Alexandria for a work meeting. After I finished, I went into a small cafe to grab a coffee before heading back. I was waiting for my order when an elderly man walked in, and at that moment, I froze. The man was wearing my son's jacket. Not one that looked similar. Not the same brand. It was Karim's actual jacket. Karim had once torn the sleeve of the jacket while playing guitar at school, and I had sewn a small patch shaped like a guitar over the tear because he loved music so much. There was also a small paint stain on the back, a stain that never came out, no matter how many times I tried to clean it. There was no doubt about it. It was Karim's jacket. The old man was counting a few coins in his hand before walking up to the counter to order a cup of tea. I quietly approached him and asked the worker to prepare tea and bring him some bread, and I paid for it. The old man looked at me with deep gratitude. His eyes filled with tears as he said, "May God bless you, my daughter." But my curiosity was stronger than my silence. So I asked him immediately, "Excuse me, where did you get that jacket?" He looked at me for a moment, as if trying to remember, then said calmly, "I found it at the old train station about a year ago. It was lying next to a trash bin." My heart dropped. The old train station? It was only about 30 minutes from Karim's school. I asked quickly, my voice trembling, "Was anyone there? Maybe a boy?" He thought for a moment and then said, "Yes, there was a young boy sitting on the platform. He looked very tired. I thought he was waiting for someone." My entire body froze. The description sounded so much like Karim. I asked him quickly, "And then? What happened?" He replied, "I boarded my train a few minutes later, and the boy stayed there. I didn't see what happened after that." I left the cafe with my mind racing with thoughts. If Karim had been there, then maybe, just maybe, he was still alive. The next day, I went straight to the old train station. The place was nearly abandoned, but there was an elderly security guard there. I approached him and asked, "Excuse me, do you remember a young boy who was here about a year ago?" He thought for a moment, then said something that made the world spin around me. "Yes, I remember a boy like that. An ambulance took him that day. He had fainted." My eyes widened as I asked quickly, "Where did they take him?" He replied, "To a nearby public hospital." I immediately drove to the hospital. After a long search through old records, we found something strange. On the same day, Karim disappeared. An unidentified boy had been admitted to the hospital. He was unconscious and had no identification with him. The doctors treated him, but when he woke up, he had lost his memory. A week later, he was transferred to a youth care home. At that moment, my heart was beating faster than ever. I asked for the address of the care home and drove there immediately. I entered the office and asked to see the boy. The employee looked at me with confusion, but he agreed. A few minutes later, the door opened. A young man walked in. He was a little taller, a little thinner, but his features were the same eyes as Karim. I stood there, unable to move as tears streamed down my face. I whispered with a trembling voice, "Karim?" The young man looked at me with confusion, as if trying to remember something very far away. Then suddenly, tears rolled down his face, and in a quiet voice he said, "I don't know why, but I feel like I know you." At that moment, I hugged him tightly, as if I was reclaiming a lost piece of my soul. A whole year of pain, searching, and tears. But in the end, my son came back.